Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. This is episode number 463. Today I'm talking about creating bingeable content. Now let's dive in.
Have you already found business success but feel lonely at the top? Or do you feel like you're at a place in your business where others just don't get it? Or maybe you feel like you have to make yourself smaller in order for others to not feel less than. Or maybe just a little bit of all three. But with all that said, there is good news because I've been there and I see you, sister. I'm Taylor Bradford, the torchbearer of this podcast and sisterhood, and I'm here to lead and inspire you to stay purposely aligned in the success you have found and provide you with support, guidance, and a sisterhood to keep going. Because I do get it. Your business journey isn't meant to be traveled alone. So grab a notebook, your favorite pen, and a bevy, and let's dive into this together with this latest podcast episode. Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative and me.
Welcome to episode number 463. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here and for pressing play. I am still under the weather as I'm recording this, so please bear with me. I have a raging headache today, and I did actually end up going to the doctor, and I have a sinus infection, which I'm hoping clears out pretty soon because waking up and going to bed with sinus headaches is not fun. And, but yeah, thankfully I'm on this side of it, but I would just like a really great day of sleep, if you know what I mean. Today I'm talking about creating bingeable content and what that means and how you can do that in your business, whether that is through your social media posts or through your email newsletter, wherever it might be, or blog posts or podcast episodes or YouTube videos. That is what we are chatting about today. Before we get there, let's find out what's been going on in social media land. Social media headline number 1, the U.S. Senate looks to advance TikTok ban proposal, and it could come before the Senate sooner than expected. The bill has been pushed ahead, which could see a Senate vote as early as this week. Social media headline number 2, Instagram adds new options for creator subscriptions. They are now facilitating over 2 million creator subscriptions if you haven't taken advantage of that. Social media headline number 3, Elon Musk hints at bringing back Vine. Elon is running another poll around the possibility of bringing back the app. Social media headline number 4, LinkedIn is testing a premium company page's business subscription option. The new option would provide your page with a range of additional tools. And that wraps up this week's social media headlines. So let's get into creating bingeable content, what that actually means. It means you're creating content that people are wanting to come back for or that they are looking out for when you post something new. And as you're thinking about content creation, you want to have all of these things in mind so that your content can become bingeable. And the first one is that you've got to be intentional in the content you're actually creating. So everything that you do in your business needs to have intention driving it, is why I talk about having purpose in your business. And regardless of whether or not you have a side hustle or this is your full-time gig, everything, every piece, every moving piece, every content piece, every action that you're taking in your business to push it forward has to be driven by intention. So how do you ensure that? Well, part of being intentional is creating value, providing value, sharing value. But what does that actually mean? Well, we can use an acronym for that. Value, V. Creating vulnerable content. Let people get inside your brain. If that's the kind of business that you have where you're that personal, you want to create actionable content. Get people to do something, the A in the word value. You want to share the lessons that you've learned, the L in the word value. You want to be different, be unique, the U in the word value. And you want to be engaging and or educational. You could use either word for the E in the word value. So being vulnerable, being actionable, sharing lessons learned, being unique, and being engaging or educational. Every piece of content is either going to be educational or it's going to be entertainment. That's basically the kinds of content that we create. You can be educational and you can be controversial and also be educating at the same time, or you can be entertaining and being controversial at the same time. You can be funny and educational or funny and entertaining. You can share your opinions. You can be thought-provoking. Like, your content has to be driven by emotion of some kind to get people to do things. That's where the intention is coming from. So make sure everything that you're creating has value. It's vulnerable, actionable, lessons learned, unique, engaging, or educating. Pick out one of those letters and make sure that that piece that you're working on, whether it's a blog post, whether it's an Instagram post, whether it's a podcast episode or a YouTube video, whatever it might be, it needs to be value packed. For the next piece, I want you to know where you are in your journey, whether you are creating growth or working on growth, or you are working on converting, whether it's being a little bit more sales driven or more just educational and growing that like, know, and trust factor. Where are you in your business? Now, I feel very strongly about what I'm about to say next. I feel like you can move through these two phases very seamlessly. At the very beginning of my social experiment, which by the way, I'm still working towards, and I do have an update for you. At the very beginning, because I was following a very specific strategy to see what was replicatable, I was in a supposed growth phase, but I was basically told not to create any kind of conversion content, that all I was doing was trying to grow an account without expecting anybody to do anything from me. Now, if you were to actually take that into a legitimate business, you would fall flat on your face trying to grow. You actually have to do some storytelling and some story selling. And so that's why I say you're going to weave back and forth between creating growth-based content and conversion-based content, because you have to tell your story and you have to story sell. You can't just post content for the fun of it. That would be a hobby. And while I know some of us that are side hustling might consider this fun and a hobby, if you are trying to create a revenue stream, then you're going to have to sell at some point, and you need to be able to do so in a very strategic, intentional way, which is why I think that you do move through growth and conversion content just fluidly. So growth content, like I said, is when you're focusing on growing, you're focusing on being the authority in your niche. You are focusing on growing that like, know, and trust factor. Conversion phase is when you're focused on selling. It is when you are trying to get your buyer to do something, to buy something from you, or a follower, or a customer. But you've got to have both. You can't just do one or the other. You have to fluidly mix that together. And so I don't think it's just one or the other. I think that you would fall short if you were just focused on one or focused on the other. You have to have a good mix of both in order to grow and to sell at the same time. Like, that's the whole point. You're building authority and creating a reason for somebody to come back to you because you're the solution provider for them. You're speaking to them. You want them to do some action, create some action. And I think that's why you are going to utilize or create growth-based and conversion-based content together. You're just going to have to experiment. None of this is like set in stone, and there's not a right or a wrong way. You just have to do, and you have to try. And when something does really well, then figure out what those components were and recreate it again in the future, whether that is a week from now or a month from now. If we all could get this figured out, we would all be rock stars at creating bingeable content and having sales coming in while we sleep. Some of us can get there. Some of us, it does take a lot of trial and error. The next part of creating bingeable content is sharing your story. It's what I was kind of talking about when I was saying to story sell. People buy from people that they like, know, and trust, regardless of whether or not they can see your face out in social media land. It's how people get to know you. It's how people find threads that they can relate to. If you're a Diet Coke lover like me, make sure that that's part of your story. If you are struggling with something, make sure that that is something that you tell in your story. If you've had aha moments, if you have opinions about something in your niche, and let me tell you, when I was creating that crap content in the very beginning, the first 60 days of that social experiment, I just kept thinking, this is so dumb. Why am I creating this content? But I'm testing this strategy, so I'm going to keep doing it. And it was going up against everything in my being that I was creating crap content. I was legitimately not allowing anyone to connect with me and just hoping that the spaghetti noodles I was throwing at the wall was actually going to work, knowing that it wasn't going to work. So you want to be able to tell your story, weave your story, be intentional, weave your story into the things that you're doing so that you can create connection points with people. Talk about your wins, talk about your frustrations, share your opinions on things that frustrate you within your industry or your niche. Get to talking. That is what and how people relate to you. And then finally, wrapping this up, I want you to be okay with experimenting. I talked about this a little bit just a minute ago, but don't be afraid to try some things. Try different approaches and strategies. Recreate past content that performed well. I've already mentioned this. Analyze what's working for others in your industry and create your version of that kind of content. Now, the huge caveat, don't be copying people. That's a big no-no. But figure out, go and look at, if it's Instagram Reels, what's doing well for other people in your industry, and figure out, is it the audio? Use the audio and create a completely different reel. Is it the hook? Use the hook and create completely different content. The whole point of all of this is to see what best resonates. But again, there's no known, like, here's how to do it, because we don't own the platforms that we're working on outside of our email list and our websites. So I've heard in the last week and a half that Instagram is being weird again for people and that their reels aren't popping off like they used to be. And it's like, if we were to constantly stay focused on that, we would never get anywhere. You just have to keep going. And you can't be beholden to your stats. Your stats are good. It gives you some signals, but also the signals that you're getting are biased by the Instagram platform or the social media platform that you're using. So don't forget that part. Don't forget that your content fell flat because of you. It wasn't you. It was the algorithm or the social media thing, because you don't have control over that. So don't be scared to experiment. You never know what's going to work or what's going to resonate as long as you're creating intentional, value-based content. That's the whole purpose of being bingeable. And so I want you to be okay with that. I want you to be okay with experimenting. So I did want to provide a little bitty update on my social experiment. So I have 2 faceless accounts now. I have pivoted the original account to faceless, and I'm only creating content on one and then reproducing content on the other so that I'm not having to do a lot of different content creation, it's working. But one very significant thing that has happened with the program Legendary Marketer, they did shut down their affiliate program. They are retooling. I'm not 100% what triggered it outside of a possible FTC inquiry. For me as a business owner, that's the only thing that I can see that would have created this very quick action. They had just come off a mastermind where, I don't know, maybe 100 people attend that, and they have speakers, and a lot of the top affiliate producers were the teachers, which, can be good and it can be bad. And the top, I would say 8 or 10 of the content creators that were there, who are the people that I had stumbled upon in my late night scroll session, they were there to be educators as well, and they were all creating content together. And within 2 weeks of that actual mastermind, the affiliate program was shut down. Those people have since chosen not to come back in as affiliates. And because here's the thing, we were all told that you can no longer income claim, even though that has been a compliance thing since I came into it. I think they made an update in August of last year, yet nobody was following any of their updates of the program. So they shut down the affiliate program. They kind of grandfathered you if you were already creating or receiving commissions, so you stayed within it, but they were retooling. Anyone else, including myself, because I hadn't ever sold the program yet, were asked to be kind of in this pause period, and then you can rejoin the affiliate program once they reopen it and get some more kind of buffers in place. And they just had a compliance training with an attorney this past week, and I find that very interesting and a strong signal to something that's got to be going on behind the scenes. And since then, or right before that session with the compliance attorney, which was heavily focused on Federal Trade Commission best practices and not making lifestyle claims, not making income claims, and being very strict about that. One of the top affiliates was asked to remove every Instagram reel that had an income claim, that had a lifestyle claim, like being in front of her mansion that she purchased, being in front of her brand new car that she purchased, or making comments about retiring her husband. She removed some of the content claims as far as income, but she refused to take down anything else. She has since been banned out of that program, and she is one that has made 7 figures. And I think this is a strong indicator as to what is going on behind the scenes. And what I see kind of flowing through, so all of those high ticket producers of that program are now switching over into master reseller rights, which is just going to make that even worse. The difference between being an affiliate and selling something that you have master resale rights for, you are now taking care of the customer and you are now the target for the FTC instead of the company that you're an affiliate for. Usually there is a buffer for any kind of content creator and an affiliate program. The business will be targeted before the actual influencer or content creator. In their instance, now that they're strictly doing MRR and are not affiliating, although they're probably still affiliating for Stan Store and some of those other things like ClickFunnels and System.io. Now, if you're selling MRR content, master reseller right content, your target is on your back, not somebody else's. So I will find that very interesting to see what actually happens long term, because they are not changing their ways. They're continuing using income claims, lifestyle claims to drive their content. I did find an article on the Federal Trade Commission's website that specifically says that is against their rules. And I know that it's just not talked about, and I don't know how to go about being like, hey, tap, 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 here's the FTC article. You are literally in violation. But it's one of those, I don't know, swag walks. It's ego boosting to be able to use that as a driver. And every account that I have come across is using income claims. And I've said some things to some people about what that can do. And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm hitting the mark. I know that it's one of those things that it's sexy. It's sexy sales. And you have to be very careful about that because you can't make an income claim like that, or you can't make a lifestyle claim like that because it is not replicatable. Results may vary. You cannot get somebody to believe they can be the same, do the same, and have the same result because results cannot be guaranteed. And so I do see that being a huge issue for all of these people in the future. How quickly that will spin out, I don't know, but I would imagine 3 to 6 months. Oh gosh, I wish they would just listen to me. But, they don't know me and they don't realize what kind of background I have. Every post that I create is like, this account might be new, but I'm not new to this industry. But it's really hard when people don't really know you. You're working on building that like, know, and trust factor and creating that bingeable content. Okay, that was the update. I'm still doing this thing and trying to see if I can create a new community out of this and to create a new revenue stream out of this. Because eventually the whole purpose for my social experiment, now that I know that what those ladies were doing is crap, the whole purpose is to see if I can replace a couple of our income streams that are more physically demanding, and meaning Sugar Creek and some of the, furniture lifting that I have to do on a weekly basis. As I get older, that is more challenging. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't grabbed my brand new planner, it's a 90-day planner. It's undated. You can start it whenever. Go to bossgirlcreative.com/BGC planner and grab your copy. It's undated. It's focused on gratitude. It's focused on affirmations and your task and to-do list. Pick up your copy, bossgirlcreative.com/BGC planner. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Oh, wait, before I go, thank you truly for your support of my own business journey and this podcast, The Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur. If you know another entrepreneur who is in the same business trenches, who has already found success but might be feeling a bit lonely in their journey, my hope is that you'll share this podcast and this sisterhood with them. Because what we do day in and day out, isn't meant to be done alone. Speaking of lonely, if you're ready to squash the business journey loneliness, stop what you're doing right now and join the sisterhood. Visit bossgirlcreative.com/sisterhood. I can't wait to see you in there.